back with Thompson to Clark. We actually have some baseball to talk about. You know, unfortunately, we tried to go live after opening day. Brad was under the weather.
I was dead to the world, man.
So instead, you got to hear my voice if you subscribe to the podcast feed, which that may be a reason to do so. We have a show. We have our 3 shows. We have Thompson to Clark. We Want Winners, the death lineup. And on days in which we don't have a show, if there's news, I will record like a little 10-minute quick news thing on all 3 teams. And I call it BSPN News, but it's only in the actual podcast feed. So you have to subscribe to the podcast feed and you'll get those short. They're really short. They're, 10 minutes, maybe a couple more minutes on certain days. Just a quick to catch you up to date. They're posted at like midnight. So when you wake up, they're there for you. But that's what I did instead. And if you heard that, then you knew that Brad was under the weather and not feeling too well. But glad that we have him here right now because I was wondering if he was going to be healthy enough. I was really worried. I was worried about
I'm still rallying, man. It was some sort of stomach bug that I either got from the tail end of the trip in Disneyland or right after I got back home. I mean, we were wiped out. When we got home, we were wiped out because when you're in Disneyland, it's like, 12 hours in the park and more than 12 hours. Gosh, it's like, 16, 17 hours in the park, 5 straight days. And then I got home and I did the show Monday and I felt good. Had the bourbon and everything. And then Tuesday, I was starting to feel a little feverish. And then Tuesday night we had our draft. When we finished our fantasy baseball draft, I took my temperature and it was 101.
Wow.
And so I drafted the whole draft. So if I have a bad year, you can absolutely blame it on the fever I had during the draft. But I think I was happy with my draft. I don't even think I got one giant player. I had Tyro Estrada on my list for second base. Somebody grabbed him right before me. Was it you? Did you grab Tyro?
No, I did not.
My brother-in-law. Tyro. Yeah, my brother-in-law grabbed Tyro. So I ended up with Gleyber Torres, who's off to kind of a pretty good start. But still, I always like to try to have a giant. Bryce Johnson's still out there.
He is.
So, there are some players that are VR is still out there. Some players still out there. So
yeah, I mean, if you're basing it off of today's game, VR is a great pickup, but can't go backwards and get his stats from today.
And I've got Nolan Arenado, so it's like, I've got Nolan Arenado, so VR is not going to play third base for me, but you didn't get any either?
No Giants at all. Not even any former Giants. Actually, if you count Carlos Correa, there's my former Giant.
Yeah, you can. You can count him. I went him for an hour.
I went a little old on the pitching side in that I kept Verlander as a keeper, and then I drafted Scherzer, and then Verlander starts on the DL. And then there was one moment in the draft, and don't worry, we're not going to spend the entire night talking about our fantasy baseball.
But it's baseball. It's baseball.
But there was one moment where, I had my spreadsheet going. I thought I had a little bit more time than I actually did. And then when I went to draft, there was like 5 seconds left. And so by the time I could actually get to my person, I would have missed. So I just went with whomever Yahoo had next.
Oh, no.
It was sad guy Joe Musgrove. And so I drafted him and I was like, oh, no, I didn't want him in that spot. Then I click on the thing to tell you news about him to learn that he was going to start the season on the DL. I have 3 players on the DL already to start.
It will never be as bad as the year that I had one too many beers too early in the draft. And I really wanted Hunter Pence. And it's when he was still with, I believe, let's see, where was he? He was in Houston. And I really wanted Hunter Pence. And I was like, I'm going to grab Hunter Pence. Or no, he was in Philly at that point. And I was like, I'm going to grab Hunter Pence. I love the guy. He's one of my all-time favorites before he was even a Giant. One of my all-time favorites to watch playing. and I typed in Hunter, my pick, and I hit enter, and I got Torrey Hunter in his last season, like,
Oh, and he was not good at all.
in the 5th round. Like, what am I doing? By the time it came around again, so don't drink that.
It's so fun though to have a little
It is.
have a little drink while you're doing the draft.
Drink
The
in
thing
moderation.
the thing that's usually pretty good about your leagues is while we're drafting, we'll get a little chatter going on. But I
Yeah, yeah.
think in some instances, like maybe the clock was going too fast, and so there was very little chatter in there. I missed the chatter a little
Yeah.
bit.
There wasn't a whole lot of chatter this time. One year, Yahoo did a video chat
Yeah.
where you could join a video chat and do it. And I think there were only like 3 or 4 of us in it because I know a lot of the guys in our draft really want to concentrate. And so they're just like, I don't want it. I just want to draft. But I like chattering too, because it's like, oh, you picked this guy, but I was not feeling well. So I think that's why I was like, I got to concentrate. I got to put everything I have into my picks, and I can't chat because if I do that, I'm all of a sudden going to completely lose where I'm at. So,
Yeah,
and I think
totally.
you and I use the same source too.
Yeah.
We use the athletic source. So
Yeah.
we'll see how it goes. We're having fun so far.
One other thing before we get into the nitty-gritty of what happened on the baseball field today is I want to shout out some people who joined our Discord. The season started. I jumped into our Thompson to Clark Twitter. I looked at folks who were following us and who we were following and who I thought, just looking at their Twitter feed and following them on Twitter, I thought they would be pretty cool people to join our Discord. So I sent a bunch of private messages and wanted to shout out the folks who dropped in. So Big Leo 415, who also does a podcast, and he had mentioned, maybe getting one of us or all of us or how many ever of us to jump on his podcast. I told him I would make time for him. Big Leo is in. Lumi is in. Mrs. D, Candlestick Will is a pretty fun follow on Twitter, especially if you are on leaning on the left side, because Candlestick Will, it's shots fired at any kind of nutty on the other side. And then we had Sam Bruno, Jess jump in, B Sheezy, Gary E, Steve Risotto, who he does a podcast called RizzoCast that is pretty popular. I don't know if he writes or not. I know the RizzoCast podcast. I reached out to him. I told him, hey, I know you have a good following. If you want to bring some of your following to the Discord, we will create a channel for RizzoCast and just get conversation about your show. So nice. He's in. Case 4613 is in, and Andrew Pasquini, who is he has a pretty popular 49ers podcast. So I hope, if during baseball season he's not too active, I hope for football he is, because I know he really, really knows his 49ers. So shout out to all of you folks who jumped in. Warriors, if they make the playoffs, we think that they're going to make the playoffs. When that happens, I'm going to go through a lot of the Warriors people that we follow and who follow us on BSPN and invite them through into the Discord as well. So it's fun. We had some chats during all 4 games of opening.
Yeah.
So including today, and we'll talk about that game right now. Giants, I think they just got tired of getting shut out and scored no runs in the 2 out of the first 3 games, and they let it all out against the Chicago White Sox today to the tune of 12-3. And they had, I'm going to list the home runs here, and I'll list them by inning. Jock Peterson, home run, solo shot, 2nd inning. We had in the 5th inning, Michael Conforto got on the board there. Line drive to right center. Tyro homered to left, same inning. Yaz homers to right, all in the same inning. And then finally, David VR homers to left, in the same inning. So at this point, the Giants are up 7-0. They're really cruising here. The White Sox do get on the board against Sean Manaea, who had some control issues and then gave up a long fly to Lewis. Do we know, is it Lewis Robert, or are we going like Robert? Like how
No, it's Lewis Robert Jr.,
Lewis
right?
Robert
I
Jr.
believe there's
Yeah.
yeah. But I know a lot of people in the baseball circles who are just fans of the game call him Louis Bob.
Oh, Louis
I've heard
Bob. I
that.
like that.
Louis Bob. Yeah, it's one of my favorites. I've heard that quite a bit. He will always be attached to me because when we got those free packs last year in MLB The Show 22, he was the first pack I opened of the free packs. He was the first diamond that I got. So first pack I ever opened, I got a diamond. It was Louis Bob. Sold him for like 30,000 stubs, and I was very happy.
Oh, there you go. So. And then the damage was not done because in the 9th inning, they load the bases and David Villar hits a grand slam, no doubter. And the Giants go up 11-3. They score again in the same inning. Bryce Johnson, first home run, first major league home run, just a line shot over the right field fence. And that was the scoring. The Giants win 12-3 behind the arms of DeSclafani, and then Sean Manaea came in. Tyler Rogers finished it up. So 12-3, pretty concise, pretty like just Giants were just like, we're just taking care of business today after we didn't really take care of business over the weekend.
Yeah, it was today was one of those games where when the Giants broke out to a 3-0 lead, I said, here we go, because I wanted to check out. We haven't seen this team with a lead yet, right? We haven't seen this team with a lead. We haven't seen this team, the bullpen be able to lock down a W. I'm talking about an early lead. Yes, they did take the lead later in the game against the Yankees on Saturday. Where Doval had a little bit of an issue in the 9th. So that's pretty much all we got to see from that. But I wanted to see, okay, a 3-0 lead. Do they hold this? Can they get to the bullpen? Can they get a 7th, 8th, 9th solid closeout of this ball game? Turns out they didn't even need it at that point, which was also fantastic because this team has hit the ball hard in the first weekend of the season. They're 10th. Coming into today's game, they were 10th on the list of hard hit balls. And so, they were hitting the ball when they didn't strike out, which was a lot. And so getting the results today, getting the home runs, getting the 7 home runs was just fantastic to watch because, is that the team that we're going to be watching going forward? Home opener in Chicago, you're basically playing against their number 4 starter instead of Garrett Cole on opening day, who's just mowing people down. So it was a fun game to watch. I know you got a little nervous there when it was 7-3.
Yeah,
I thought, no, I did. If that happens, then I could pretty much say this is 2022 part due, and nobody wants to see that. And
well, my only comment was, I just don't want Doval to pitch in this game. No. You stake out that lead so that you can utilize some of your longer relievers, some of your middle relievers, and you don't have to go to the closer. And we know how much he struggled in New York with the pitch clock and all that stuff. So I just was like, this is not a game where we don't need to have a torture game here. Like, this is a game where the offense is coming out. Let's support them. I know Manaea struggled, but he did hit 97 on the gun, I think, which is his highest gun reading ever as a pitcher. So that was good to see. But he was still nibbling, though. He was still pitching like he was throwing like 90. I was like, come on, attack. But
to be fair, he's a starter coming in the 7th inning. So, it's kind of
also didn't pitch a lot last year. So,
yeah, exactly. And so I'm only wondering if they brought him in because with the 2 early days off. So we have tomorrow off, Tuesday, and we also had last Friday off. With those 2, I'm assuming Logan Webb is going to go Wednesday,
Yes.
because that would be 6 days rest, and you don't want to pitch Logan Webb on 7 days rest. So I'm assuming Sean Manaea was kind of the odd man out in that weird start to the season. Which we didn't touch on last time, that it's because for home openers for teams, if there's a rain out or a snow out, you could get a snow out in Chicago pretty easily. Then you have the next day to play the game. And I didn't really think about that. I know I've heard that in the past, but it's just not one of those things that I thought about last week. But yeah, to be fair to Sean Manaea, coming in the 7th inning, it's a 7-0 ball game at that point. It's hard to really put your mind to say, I'm coming in, it's 0-0, it's the bottom of the 1st inning, and I'm trying to, get our team a W. It's just kind of a weird situation for Manaea. I'm kind of curious how many relief appearances he's made in his career, so I'm going to look that up right now.
While you look that up, I wanted to ask you, this is an interesting question, because the story so far has been the rule changes, right? Like, the rule changes this and the rule changes that. And we've talked about it ad nauseum. And I think we'll have a longer discussion about it. And we have some numbers that Jeff Passan tweeted out today that we'll go over. But does it feel like there are too many changes going on at one time? Because our what we're used to is a specific game, and sometimes that has evolved over the years. Like when we were growing up, like nobody shifted like they did in the last 10 years. They nobody swung heels to from the heels and up to try and hit home runs as much as they do and they have in the recent past. But those sort of evolved, and it was just like the evolution of the game. But these changes kind of all happened at once, and I was wondering if you think that has taken away sort of the story of, new season, all of our teams have, just the opportunity to start fresh, and now like the discussion is, he was 1 second off, and thus he got a ball called because of whatever. Like, do you feel like that has been too much of the story and has taken away some of the like romanticism about opening week?
Personally, I don't think so. And the only thing that is tiresome for us as longtime baseball fans is watching a national broadcast, and then they have like a rules expert come on where they explain the rules as the game is going on. That's gonna be gone in a couple of weeks. It won't be doing that anymore. And it's, for us, again, it's tired. We know the beginning of the season is like open for everybody, and everybody's a 0-0 record, but we know there are still teams that are crap. I mean, everybody says, well, everybody's got a shot on opening day. The Pirates don't have a shot. I mean, that's sorry, Pirates fans, but it's just kind of the truth of the matter. So for me, this is kind of like a fresh opening to the season. I was a little more excited for the open of this season than I have been in a very long time for any season, other than the Giants, defending world championship seasons when they opened the next season and they hoisted the trophy, and then, come into AT&T Park or Oracle or SBC, whatever you want to call it, at the time, and hoist the trophy and put the flag up and everything else. Those were exciting starts to the season. This is probably the most excited I've been since one of those seasons. And it's because of the new rules. And it's because we're going to see our game change, not enormously. Although the 9th inning, to me, with Camilo Duvall pitching in New York, was one of the most uncomfortable 9th innings I've watched in a very long time. And it didn't have anything to do so much with him giving up hits, him walking people, making it a tightrope game. the the sphincter pincher double play at the end of the game. It didn't have any. It was the pitch clock. It was
Mhm.
all about the pitch
Yeah.
clock in that ninth inning for me. Starting off the first at bat with an automatic ball because he couldn't get the first pitch off. So that was a bit frustrating. I felt that was rushed. That was a big inning. There were times I wanted to soak it in. So I'm a little worried, honestly. I'm a little worried when it gets to playoff time and there are big playoff moments that it's going to not feel like our baseball. It's going to feel like new baseball. And I was hoping we could kind of like ease into these rules and they weren't um, so impactful to the point where you're watching it going, wow, this changed a lot and I'm
Yeah.
not sure I like it. Now, the rest of the game, I don't really think about the pitch clock, but man, that ninth inning. And so the next time the Giants are at home with the bases loaded, uh, down by 2 runs with 2 outs, it's going to be a little bit more nerve wracking. And I don't know if that's in a good way.
Yeah, I guess my feeling was, to me, opening day is about my team and my excitement for my team. But because of all these rules, it seemed like the focus was on the league rather than the team. And maybe that's a good thing because they should get some kudos in trying to advance the game. But it seemed like an extended spring training to me rather than a true opening day. And it sort
Yeah.
of still feels like that a little bit. Like you watch, and this has something to do with the Giants because their catching position is so in flux. And Blake Sable is letting balls go to the backstop. And I know that Sean Jelly was like, yeah, those are my fault. But at the same time, it just seems like, and maybe this is a Giants thing, that it is kind of an extended spring training. They don't have stability in that position. When opening day started, and we'll I guess we can talk about that now. We looked at that roster and we were excited for Bryce Johnson. We're like, okay, he is an outlier because this team does not have a lot of speed. We have Tyro. Some guys can run a little bit, but Bryce Johnson was going to be the guy. Like, let's see, let him go. Let's see if he can get on base. And then Farhan decides to send him down like immediately. Also, they could grab a guy by the name of Matt Beatty. Matt Beatty.
Uh, Beatty, I think.
Matt Beatty.
Yeah.
They traded for Matt Beatty. He's a left-handed bat, but he's more along the lines of the players that they keep stacking, sort of one specific thing they do well, not well-rounded. So, that they had the dance with Brett Wisely. He's up the night of the day of the opener, and then the next day he's down. And so it's just this dance that reminded me again. You had sort of said, 2022 part 2, but maybe it's not. Maybe it just feels that way because of the way that we came into the season. I was just, not that I was frustrated because it's fresh, it's new. I was just like, gosh, this feels a little bit deja vu-ish to me. And last year was fine. Like they were fine. They were they were like the definition of fine when it came to baseball. But immediately when our prospects are like, the season is new, we're 0-0, it's fresh. And then we go, oh yeah, this is Connor Joe. And this is, who is that guy that they had? Joe something or other. And just these random people who
Yeah.
don't stick around for very long. And we thought it was going to be a little bit different this year. And maybe it will be, but that's what the beginning of the season felt like to me.
Yeah, and I totally get you, and that set a lot of people off. The Twitter was ablaze that morning when they found out that Beatty was now a San Francisco Giant on the 26-man roster. Matt Wisely was going to be there. His family heard he was going to be there. Then they found out he wasn't, so he left. And then they found out he was, and it's too late for them to get there. That whole thing was just kind of a mess. But the way I look at it this time was, okay, that was a purpose pickup. Kapler, Farhan, both very familiar with him from their time with the Dodgers and his time with the Dodgers. And we know right now our backup at first base was going to be Jock Peterson. So it was one of those situations where, like, if you want to keep Jock off of the field and you want to keep him solely at DH, here's how you do it.
Yeah.
And so they kind of have to explore that option. So it's the back end of the 26-man rotation. They're not picking him up and then he's starting every game. It's not like they went into the season without a first baseman. Lamont Wade Jr. struggling a little bit off the bat, but playing good defense. So I'm not too worried about that.
Yeah.
But I, that was a tough one. That was a little bit of a tough one because it was kind of here we go again. But things have settled down, calmed down a little bit. The first 2 games or a couple of moves. Does he make another move? I mean, Joey Bart, you kind of had to make that move because his back strain. So Jelly comes up. That's just a normal move. Is Jelly going to be sticking around for a little bit? It's possible because now they're going to be going into a stretch where they're going to be playing a lot of games in a row. Jelly didn't look too fantastic yesterday, but that being said, they need the arms, and they need the arms that can lengthen times between starters to back into the bullpen, and that's what Junis and Jelly do. That's a good podcast name.
Junis and Jelly.
Like
Junis and Jelly in the morning.
That's a morning crew. There we go. A morning crew. Junis and Jelly. So yeah, I get what you're saying, and I'd love to keep track of the moves this year. I'm kind of curious how many they make versus last year, and I'm sure we're going to hear about it. Grant Brisbee has an infatuation with that, which I love, of how many moves the Giants make each season. So that's always fun to follow, and I'm sure he's going to be kind of following up on that during the season.
Yeah, some of it may have also been I just wasn't home. I was home for the one game, and then I was on a little bit of a road trip for the weekend. So, but now I'm home and was able to watch the second half of today's game while I was working. So that was fun.
Yeah.
And we got more day baseball for the rest of the week, pretty much, right?
Yeah, 9 games in a row, and we're 4 games into it. So we got 5 more games of day baseball. But that's okay, because I work from home Wednesday and Thursday. So I'm very happy about that. We have Tuesday off tomorrow. I'm at work. It was because I had the game on my phone while I'm working. And so it's kind of hard because I'm running back and forth. Priority number 1 is my job, right?
Yes.
Just in case the boss is listening.
Yes.
And so, home runs are happening, and I'm, trying to do some video editing, and I'm looking over and I'm kind of checking it out. So Wednesday and Thursday being at home and being able to have it on the big screen and loud so I can hear it will be extra nice. So looking forward to that. But then I'm at work for the home opener, which is kind of a bummer. But,
yeah, I was trying to figure out, could I get there? I probably could, but I probably shouldn't. It's like one of those where I could probably go and I could make up the time. I wouldn't even have to take day off. I would just make up the time later, but then it kind of throws everything else off. I was like, nah, I think I'll stay home, but I am going to go to a few games, hopefully earlier in the season, soon enough. All right. So let's talk about the player of the week. So we're bringing it back. Now, we really need to get people to vote for this thing.
Yeah.
I saw the lower than I expected number of votes. And so here's a call for folks to vote in this poll so that we can get some good numbers. And I will leave it to Brad. He had 3. Did you have 3 people?
I have 3 people. Yeah, I always try to pick 3 people. I tried to do 4 once before, and it didn't work out too well. Too many choices. Can't have too many choices. Like when you go into Total Wine and you're staring at the bourbon wall, I'll stand there for 20 minutes just going, I gotta pick one. How am I going to pick one? So anyway, so we started off with B. Craw as one of our picks.
That was my pick, by the way.
Yeah, as we know, he had a fantastic Saturday. Didn't have a great Thursday. Didn't have a great Sunday. Nobody did on the Giants. And again, just remember, this does not include today's game.
Yeah, this first series.
Yeah, today's game will be included in next Monday's poll, so watch for that. B. Craw had a 391 WOBA in 3 games. Remember, this is just 3 games. 1 home run, 2 runs, 3 ribs, and a stolen base, an old man stolen base.
Yeah,
which we always like to see. Threw Logan Webb in there. Of the pitching starters, he pretty much had the best start. Although you could argue also that Cobb had a pretty good start. It was a good start. It wasn't Logan Webb, because Logan Webb threw 6 innings, struck out 12. He gave up 4 hits, but 2 of them were bombs, and so he did give up 4 earned runs. Yeah, and then Judge took him deep in the first swing that he took of the season, which was rough to watch.
You had one job to do here, Logan Webb.
That was it, man.
Dude in the park. Jeez.
Yes. But you know what? He homered twice against us this weekend, and they were both solo shots. So can handle that. And then I put Jaka up there as well. 340 WOBA. He had that home run that kind of kicked off the 7-run rally, 7-run scoring streak, should I say? I shouldn't say rally, because that makes it sound like it was in 1 inning, but kicked off the scoring for the Giants on the season. That was the first run of the season as well, first RBI and run. So Jock Peterson, a home run, 2 runs, 1 rib, and 2 walks. And I threw that in there because Jock Peterson is not a walk machine. So the fact that he had 2 walks in 3 games was really nice to see. And then coming in third place was Jock Peterson. Coming in second place, Brandon Crawford, 42% of the vote. And then 50% of the vote, Logan Webb. And he was actually my pick. I picked him. Just because I like the way he kind of set the tone for the pitching staff in the first game of the season. I thought that was huge. And, looking forward to seeing his second start on Wednesday, see how things go.
The thing I liked about that start, and I think most people probably did, his ability to not only get to 2 strikes, but to get to 2 strikes and then go for the kill.
Yeah.
Now, this umpire, my dad sent me a text, and he's like, yeah, this umpire's sitting a little far on the inside corner. And he really wanted to see that inside corner well, which meant he didn't see the outside corner as well. So both pitchers were getting, a good half an inch off the corner to the outside. Logan Webb saw that, used it, and so did Garrett Cole. He used it as well. But I just like the fact that, we've seen Logan pitch a lot, and maybe the best game that we've ever seen him throw was that playoff start against the Dodgers, where he was just like attacking those guys. And that's what it felt like. Now, he did give up the 2 big flies. That the Judge pitch was a bit of a mistake, location error. I think he wanted to throw it in a certain spot, and it just didn't go to where he wanted it. So in most parks, I think he lives with that. Just in this park, wasn't great. Especially when you have King Kong and Godzilla both in the same lineup. Gosh, just those guys back to back. And Stanton, I know Stanton's kind of had some off years of late, but geez, yesterday, geez.
But he could. I mean, he's one of those guys. He can have an off year, and then next year he can hit 40 home runs.
Yeah,
I mean, he's got that much power, and he's that talented. So
yeah. So good to see Logan. You can see it. He sees himself as the ace. He wants to be the best pitcher in the staff. He wants to be. He's also, that they could buy out some of these years left on his deal, and he could get a pretty hefty raise here. As the young star of the team. Now, outside of Tim Lincecum, there's not very many pitchers who are actually the stars of the team, but right now I think he kind of is, and they treat him like that. So it'll be good to see if the Giants figure out a way to buy out those years and have him make a little bit of cash here.
Well, the other thing too is we keep talking about that this season. Of course, we're going to, but Farhan's option, he was picked up for one more year, so this is technically his last year now. Or no, wait, so it would be
Got one more. He's got
the
one
year
more after
after
this.
would be so they
Yes.
picked up the year after that. So do we have time to find out if Farhan is going to treat homegrown pitchers differently when it comes to contracts and contract negotiations and length of deals given out? I'd like to find out. I'd like Farhan to be around for a while. I know there's a lot of people that don't, but I still like his style. I still like what he builds. I know it's been a little while, but I still want to see what he can do. Um, with a team that can lead the majors again in home runs. I want to see what he can do at the trade deadline with a team that is, fighting for a division lead in the National League West. So I want to see that again. We've only seen that one time, and it was the year after COVID. So things were still a little weird with contracts and with dealings around the trade deadline. So it's going to be exciting. That's something I want to see, and I'm hoping it's this year. I know I said a 94 win team, but I'm still kind of sticking by that 94 win team. We saw what this team did today. We saw what this team did to the Yankees on Saturday. Put them in the right situation, and these guys can mash. I mean, they can hit the ball, and they can hit the ball hard. They've gone through some of these guys have gone through the Giant system. They know what it takes. They know that you need to play multiple positions with the San Francisco Giants. You can't just be I'm a first baseman. That's what I do. No, you've got to play 2 or 3 positions.
What if your name is Matt Beatty?
If your name is Matt Beatty, there's a good chance you've got about 10 games left. if you're on the back end of the 26-man roster, and you're not a true Giants minor leaguer, there's a chance you're kind of just on borrowed time.
Yeah, you kind of have to hit like 5 jacks in the next 10 games to stick around.
Yeah, you gotta stick around. Yeah.
All right, so I was looking at Logan Webb's numbers as far as contracts for this year. He's at 4.6. They avoided arbitration. 24 and 25 will also be ARB years, and then in 26 is when he will be a free agent. At $4.6 million, he's an absolute bargain. Last year he was $730,000.
Yeah, that's great.
And upwards of 10 million and 15 million. I think he's still very valuable. But you're right, getting up to the 20 and 25, but I think it's more about the length for pitchers.
Yeah.
Right? I think Farhan will spend the yearly rate on the pitchers, but he just doesn't want to go super deep, 6-year deal or whatever, because he knows that the end of that deal is not going to be great. So I don't think the Giants will have an issue with paying Logan Webb what he's worth. It's just how long do they want to extend him for? That is going to be the question.
Yeah.
All right. So
going back to Sean Manaea too, I had looked that up. So today was the 160th career game for him to have pitched in, and today was only the 4th relief appearance he's ever made. So I give him a little bit of a break.
Yeah. Oh, it's so early in the season.
Yeah.
I just just as if you were his teammate and you have a 7-0 lead, what are you telling him? Let them hit throw strikes.
Yeah,
let them hit, we got a lead.
Here.
We're ready.
Yeah.
You don't need to go corner and maybe miss here and there. The worst thing you can do is actually put runners on. So that was just sort of my instinct, is if I was playing behind him, just be like, dude, attack the zone. We had 7 runs,
And we talk about opening day jitters, and it was his opening day. So, he's a little erratic, a little Camilo Duvall. And that's it. I really want to see Duvall get back out there, hopefully Wednesday, we got like a 3-2 lead, and he
Yeah.
can come in and shut the door. Because when he came in on Saturday, I was thinking it would be so nice right now just to have a 1-2-3, just no stress, ninth inning. It did not happen. I stressed. My heart rate went up. I was still not feeling 100% well. That did not help.
Dang.
Yeah.
See, the Giants made you even more sick than you were.
Exactly.
You
Especially on Thursday, they did.
Yeah. All right, so this segment, the "What Are We Drinking" segment, is going to be very short because one of us is rehydrating his body
Yes.
and making sure that he gets healthy and better. And so I am drinking a drink that my wife, I don't remember how she found it, but one day she's just like, "Hey, can you go buy gin at the grocery store?" And I was like, "Oh, gin." We went on a gin tasting right before the pandemic.
Ooh.
That was really fun. But then since then, like we don't really drink gin. So she's like, "I found this drink and it's really low carb and it's just, lemon and seltzer water and gin." It is called a Gin Ricky. I don't know where Ricky. I just assumed it was Ricky Henderson, maybe. Um,
Then you got to
and
drink it fast.
yeah. So that's what I'm drinking. So I think it's a shot of gin. It is seltzer water. It is lemon. So it's very simple, but you don't have to worry about sugars and bitters and carbs and stuff if you don't want them. So that's what I am drinking today for this podcast.
I'm looking up the Gin Ricky right now. The classic Ricky is a traditional highball drink, primarily refers to the glass it is served in, which is a tall, slender glass, which you've got. Earliest records of the Ricky date back to the 1880s, where George A. Williamson, a bartender in Washington, D.C., first crafted the drink. So look at that. That's an old drink.
There we go.
I like that. I'm just having in my Chewy mug. I'm just having a decaf. We bought these little decaf pods online, and they're from a company called Mods. And I think this is a sweet salted caramel, but it's just a hint because I don't like flavored coffee.
Yeah.
And these just have a hint, so it's really nice. And that's what I'm having because I'm trying to get the gut back on the right ship because you and I are healthy dudes. So when our gut is not quite right and we don't think we got the right, microbiome going on in there, we kind of take a step back and we're like, we got to get back on track, man. So that's what I'm working on.
But yeah, you had mentioned you lost like, I don't know, like 5% of your whole body
7
weight or
pounds.
something.
Yeah. I went from I think I was 152 one day, and then I weighed myself one morning, Saturday morning, I was 145.
Wow.
I was like, holy moly, I just lost 7 pounds. It's crazy. So and then you go, I need that diet. No, you don't want that one, man. Find another one.
By the way, shout out to Big Leo 415. He checked in with us on YouTube, and like I said, I'm ready for Leo whenever he needs me to. We can I'll come on his show, and then he can also come on one of ours. So that is out there. All right, so let's finish up here, and wanted to go over the new rules. So, like I mentioned, Jeff Passan, he tweeted out earlier this morning. He tweeted out some comparisons to 2022, and through almost the same amount of games, he said the time of the game in 2022 for the first 49 games of the season was 3 hours and 9 minutes. And with the pitch clock this year, so far, 2023, 50 games, the average time of game is 2 hours and 38 minutes. So we are shaving a half an hour off. And my question to you is, and this is going back to you saying that the 10 seconds seems a little quick, especially when you think about postseason moments. If you change the pitch clock from 10 to 15 seconds, What do you think? It adds maybe 10 minutes a game. So instead of 238, maybe we're closer to 250. That's
Well,
still,
it's at 20 and 15 right now, right?
I thought it's 10.
So
I thought it was
no,
10.
it's 20 and 15.
Okay. Okay.
But by the time the pitcher gets the ball, so if you've got nobody on and the pitcher gets the ball and it touches his glove and then he turns around and starts scratching in the dirt, it starts at 15 the second it
Got it.
touches his
Got it.
glove. So he's stretching, he's he's scratching around, he's doing his thing, getting set, looks up at the catcher. You're already at like 10 seconds, and then a second later the batter has to eye you, catch your eyes and be ready. So that just seems a little quick. I would go, and it's not much, I would add 3 seconds on both of those.
Mhm.
So 23 if you've got a runner on, 18 if you've got nobody on, because I think that gives you, that's an extra 3 seconds, gives you that little bit of time to just get the ball back, take a breath, and then kind of scratch around in the dirt, get the mound ready, do everything, look up, and now you're closer to about 12 seconds,
Mhm.
which feels a little better to me. That's just what I would do. Yeah, maybe it's going to add a couple minutes to the game. Maybe it's going to add 10 minutes to the game, but that's fine. I mean,
Yeah. I think
I think the
as
goal is
long as we're sub 3 hours, I think that is a
absolutely.
great change for the game.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And I do like, I like the 20 and 15. I absolutely love all of that. I love the shorter games. I think there was opening night where I was pretty sick and I was like, I got to go to bed. Um, there were two games that started at 7:05 and 7:07. By 9:31, they were both done. Like the A's and Angels game ended. So I'm like, well, I'll flip over to the Guardians and the Mariners who just opened up tonight. That game was over. I mean, it had ended 15 minutes earlier, and I was like, "What is it?" Okay, I get the faster games, and that's fantastic, but I also love watching a game and having sometimes these varying times of when they end. So, because if you're a soccer fan and you watch the Premier League or any other league for that matter, a lot of Premier League games start at the same time on Saturday mornings here in the US for us, 4:30, usually 7 o'clock. So at 9 o'clock, that when those games start at 7, at 9 o'clock, within 5 minutes of that time, there could be 3 or 4 games all ending within a 5-minute time span. So that's a lot of endings to games you're not going to catch.
Mhm.
And I think that's kind of what I'm missing with that right now is this game's over. I'm going to switch to this game and it still has 2 innings left. Okay,
Right.
cool. I got to watch the last 2 innings. Not getting that right now.
Right. All right. So the next number here from Jeff Passan is the batting numbers. 2022, the average for the 49 games was a 230 average, 308 on base, 374 slugging. In 2023, 245 average, 323 on base, 392 slugging. So some of that has to do with the lack of shift. And that makes sense because the batting average is up a little higher than the slugging is. So that just probably means more singles. But I think that also has something to do with the pitchers not being able to rest as much between pitches. Maybe a little zip off the fastball a little bit that helps the batters as well. And I wonder how much of that, as the season goes, everyone's arm is fresh right now, or as fresh as can be. As season goes on, not everyone is going to be as fresh. And I wonder if we're going to see pitchers just kind of shut down for like 2 weeks because they're a little famished, and you kind of want them to just reload and rest. And then you see, they bring in some fresh arms to kind of, shut some. I wonder if we're going to see any of that because we keep hearing that, these guys who throw so hard, they're the longest between pitches, like Camilo Duval, 22 seconds or whatever. And if we're rushing him, 5 or 6 seconds more, how many pitches less is that where he has top level velocity. Like that's going to be an interesting thing to study. And you had mentioned to me earlier today that you were listening to, Saris's podcast, and I'm like, that's a guy who's going to have that number for us at some point.
Oh yeah,
he's going to let us know, how long until who's the guy that hit 105 the other day? Jordan something or other.
oh yeah. I can't remember the name, but I know who you're talking about. And,
Right.
and Camilo Duvall didn't hit 100 miles an hour on his fastball the other night.
Yeah.
But first outing of the season, didn't get a full camp with the Giants because he was in the WBC. But yeah, I wonder too, thinking of that, are we going to start seeing, and for fantasy value for us guys who, punt saves when it comes to the draft, are we going to see more two-headed save monster bullpens?
Mhm.
And were the Giants thinking about that when they saw Taylor Rogers and said, we need to grab him because we need two closers, because we're going to have 2 nights in a row where Camilo Duvall is having to work super quick and throw a lot of, not necessarily a lot of pitches, but has to throw super quick and is taxed and is kind of out of breath, a little bit tired after 2 nights. And then you get Taylor Rogers throwing. So you might see a little bit more evenness of saves, and not 40 save guys so much anymore. You might see more like 30 saves and 15 saves, and kind of break it out a little bit more. And I could see that because I was I was honestly just out of breath watching that 9th inning for Duvall. And that's why I want him to get back out there. I want to see what he can do, just nice and calm, and get out there and beat the pitch clock and not have to worry about that. And I'm sure that's something in bullpen sessions they're going to have to start working on too with him.
All right. The one change that is like the steroid era of stolen bases through 2022, success rate 29, 43 attempts, 29 successful stolen bases. So a 67.4% steal rate. In 2023, 70 of 84, 83.3% steal rate. So here's my question. Now, I kind of know your answer because you love stolen bases, and it's part of what you liked as a baseball player. But did the double change of A, the larger bases, and B, the kind of gimmicking the throwovers, has it created too much opportunity for steals? Because now, and this is going to happen when we get to the 8th or 9th inning, you have these relievers who aren't really used to holding on runners anyway, and we're giving these and maybe the pinch runner is going to become a supreme value for some of these teams. But a single or a walk is a double in the 9th inning, I think. And so that's something that I think we're also going to need to study. Did we do too much too soon? I guess is my question.
I thought about that, and I really want to see, what I'd love to see is a stat on how many stolen bases, or stolen base attempts for that matter, have happened this season after a second throw over. Because if it's like 2%, 3%, and not that big of a deal, because guys are stealing bags earlier. I think the one thing they didn't necessarily, if I had to take one of those 2 rule changes away, I would take away, believe it or not, the bigger bases. Go back to the regular bases that you had before.
So I read something where the early idea was, let's do this for safety. I think you even said this last week.
That's what they keep talking about.
It's about the safety. And Theo Epstein was the one who said, oh, steals are just going to be insane. And so he predicted, and that because they weren't thinking of it that way. They were thinking of it from the safety reason rather than from the stolen base reason. And Theo was like, oh, the stolen bases are going through the roof. So, he's a smart guy, but he was the one who was telling people, like, no, they're going to utilize this as a weapon. And so they probably don't change it back just because they can at least say it's for safety. But yeah, like it's a weapon now. It's back to the 1987 or 1985 St. Louis Cardinals, man. You walk any one of their first 3 hitters and they're sitting on second base like before you even know it.
Well, I'm looking. It's funny. I'm looking at my fantasy team, and it was you know how it is in fantasy, and we're going to talk about fantasy this year because if you're a baseball fan, you're probably playing fantasy baseball.
Yeah.
It's just kind of how it works. If you're a baseball fan, you like numbers and stats and rotisserie and all that stuff. You're a nerd just like us. That's just kind of the way. I'm looking at my team, and it's always hard to get steals every year.
Yeah.
I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 guys in my lineup right now with 2 or more stolen bases already. Like 4 games into the season, 5 games in the season. I had 2 more stolen bases tonight one from Acuna Jr. and one from Cedric Mullins. It's just insane watching the numbers. And the rule I would keep is the limited pickoffs, even though I don't like that rule. I really don't like it because baseball's always been one of those games where you can kind of do what you want and it's cat and mouse. It's a chess match. You're super fast, Ricky Henderson. We're going to try to keep you on. We're going to try to keep you honest. Well, now if you're limited to how you can keep it honest, but you're not limited to how many stolen base attempts Ricky Henderson can make, then you've all of a sudden created Ricky Henderson, the monster, who's going to steal 200 bases in a season, 250 to 300 bases in a season, because he knows exactly what to do. So if you're telegraphing moves, it kind of makes it easy for something to happen. And I don't like when our sport does something like that. The shift, I'm fine with that. Yeah. You're saying you can't put 3 players over but you also at the plate aren't saying, well, then I'm just going to hit it here. Nobody could do that. I mean, you can't just hit the ball where you want to hit the ball. It doesn't happen that way because the pitcher can pitch you away. If you want to pull the ball and the pitcher can pitch you away, you're not going to pull the ball.
Yeah. You gotta ground out.
Yeah, exactly. So that's why I would keep, if I had to keep one rule, I would keep that one and ditch the bigger bases. Either way, I'm super happy stolen bases are back. I'm kind of turning my head to the fact of how they got here. I want to see it not turn into a situation where it's like, oh, this guy got a single. It's an automatic double now. Because when we were kids, there were only certain guys that got on base that were an automatic double. I don't need it to be the entire league to say, oh, Jock Peterson just hit a single. Automatic double. No, that's not the case. That's Jock Peterson. He's not a base stealer, which I don't think he's stolen a base yet this season. But I'm just saying, I don't want to see that happen. I don't want to see the extreme. So that's why I think putting those 2 rules in there at the same time, maybe one. Then if a guy shreds his ankle, we can go, let's get bigger bases next year. But guy twists his ankle on any base any year, and it's going to happen this year, and everybody's going to scream, well, we got bigger bases. What happened? Or there was a collision. We got bigger bases. What happened? So,
and then the one pitch clock violation. Obviously, there's no pitch clock last year. There are 0.8 infractions or violations per game. So
that's not much.
That's not much. And hopefully as the season goes by, we're getting under 0.5. Like that's my hope is that it almost never happens. And so we don't even think about it. That's my hope.
Yeah, exactly. It's going to be talked about a ton when the playoffs come around. I mean, it's just going to be talked about to death when the playoffs come around, but that's fine because it's part of the game and it's here to stay. Again, just bump 3 seconds on each of those, add 3 seconds to each of those, and you're not going to get, 3.5-hour games again. Again, nationally televised games, though, those Fox games, they were over 3 hours. And you want to talk about why, and that's because of commercials. So that's always going to be there in those nationally. So when we get to the playoffs and you get playoff games, you're going to get longer games. That's just the way it's going to be.
All right, last segment here. You affectionately called it Overreaction Monday. And so if we look at the first 3 games, we're each going to pick like one overreaction, the smallest of small sample sizes that we saw during those first 3 games. And I actually want to go first because
Yeah, go for it.
in our Discord, Matthew from Giant Cocktails, he was talking about the strikeouts, the number of strikeouts the Giants had. 41 strikeouts in 3 games versus the Yankees. And they even mentioned that on the broadcast today. I forget if Kuiper or Kruko was saying that Kapler told the team we really need to grind on these at bats. We need to, extend these counts, get the counts to our favor, and that's how we kind of get back in the groove. Because and so that I was glad to hear that. But when I only really watched the first game, I was following the other 2 games via box scores and via the app that you told me about, Sports Alerts, where they kind of give you the play-by-play to your phone on your home screen. So that's how I was following as well. And the thing that I kind of thought about was, obviously with no shift, you can hit singles again. And it's not the, swing out of your shoes or bust mentality as much anymore. And I felt like the Giants' offense and strategy was still swing out of your shoes mentality. And so that's where a lot of those strikeouts were coming, is just, we're trying, we're looking at that short porch in right field at Yankee Stadium, and it's looking salivating. And then we're just striking out a bunch. Because on Sunday, like, the Yankees threw a guy who'd he never started before in a game or whatever, and the Giants are still swinging from their shoes and striking out. So that was my thing was, okay, it's 2023. These rules are in place so that we don't have to only swing this way. Like, Jock is going to swing this way because that's Jock. But, we have other hitters who are really good, smart hitters. Conforto, I was glad to see Conforto go deep today. And guys like B-Craw, B-Craw can be all or nothing sometimes, but he also can get hot and just finds holes. And it just seems like the mentality is still all or nothing, when I'm like, guys, they can't take away your ground ball into right field anymore. Like, let's do a little bit of that. So that was my overreaction to the first 3 games, was, just the strategy piece of the offense.
So and that's a good overreaction, because that's one of my 3 overreactions, but I'm just going to go with one of them. and that's was Ross Stripling necessary? and again, total overreaction, because we are one start into Ross Stripling's career with the Giants. But if you look at the spring numbers, and again, do spring numbers matter? Sure, sometimes. 23 innings pitched, 40 hits, 19 runs, all of them earned, 4 home runs, 18 strikeouts, but only 1 walk in those 23 innings. Okay. Then he comes in his first start. We have a chance to take the series from the Yankees in New York, opening weekend series. We have that shot. And he decides, not today. I'm going to give up some home runs. I'm going to make the Giants offense work for this.
Yeah.
The Giants offense that got shut out in game 1. I'm going to make them work for this. So he goes 5 innings, 6 hits, 4 earnings, 3 home runs, walks 2, strikes out 3. Was with Sean Jelly, I know Kyle Harrison's not there yet, but with Jacob Junis, was the Ross Stripling one and done, 1 year with a second year option, was that a necessary signing? And again, total overreaction. We'll know more after like 6 or 7 starts if Ross Stripling was last year's Ross Stripling, or was he 2020, 2019 Ross Stripling with the 5 ERA, the 6 ERA.
Yeah.
But again, just for fun, total overreaction. I would have been fine watching Jacob Junis make more starts, but we are one game into Ross Stripling's San Francisco Giants career.
I think he and Manea were probably DeSclafani and Wood insurance. True. And DeSclafani looked really good today, right? He looked like the DeSclafani of the first year when he was with the Giants rather than last year. Yeah. And what's going on with Wood?
As far as I know, he should be making a start. So you know what? That's the other thing I was thinking too. And Wood can be a long man also. He could also be the guy who comes in, not necessarily a long man, more of a modified middle reliever, because he is that guy that has the third time through the lineup has a tough time.
Right.
So he can be paired with a Jelly. He could be paired with Junis in his starts.
Right.
So I know I said Webb should be pitching on Wednesday, but I really don't know.
No, I think he is. I think at least he's scheduled to.
Okay. So maybe Wood wasn't quite ready out of spring, need a little extra time.
Because what happens
good in spring.
What happens is, and his strikeouts were up, which is what we saw. What happens is if DeSclafani and Wood are rock solid, then all of a sudden one of Manea or Stripling becomes like your wild card. If we, like I had mentioned, if you want to miss a start and kind of give everybody a day of rest, then you have this person who's just like a valuable starter in baseball. Now, what I also wonder is historically, I wonder how Ross Stripling's Aprils have been, and I don't know. I should have probably looked at this, but because of that arm slot, I imagine that arm slot, that over the top, that 12-6 arm slot could probably takes a little while to, to sort of kind of for him to get that rhythm of the consistency of that arm slot. So that's also my guess. Again, not really a scientific understanding of how he throws historically, because I didn't really look up this information, but I just wonder if he's a guy who needs a few starts under his belt to get that arm slot going consistently.
Yeah, and that is actually a really good point as well. And I'm looking here, April in his career, and again, we'll go with old time stats, but in his career in April, his ERA, let's see. Well, can't find it. They're not going to make it easy on me. They're going to put every other stat up here except his ERA. Yeah, of course. Not going to give me his ERA. All right. Oh, well. But either way, I mean, that is a good point, because, yeah, he may need, and again, with a new club pitching his first game of the season in New York on a Sunday afternoon game, get him at home, get him in Oracle Park. It's going to be a different story. But again, because I named the segment Overreaction, I had to find one that I looked at and was like, did we need to make this signing? And how can I overreact to it? And that's exactly how I could, by looking at that first start and going,
yeah, no, totally. It's very understandable for us to be people who do podcasts about this team and watch them game by game, watch them probably too closely from that perspective. And, it's just something that when you're as diehard of a fan as we are, you're going to overreact. This is kind of our job. This is kind of what we do on this podcast, how you create conversation. So, all right.
Actually, I did I did find his April-March ERA, 3.98 historically, a win-loss record of 1-9. Again, that is more of a team thing, because with a 3.98 ERA, you're not usually going to be 1-9.
Right.
122 innings in April and March in his career, 112 strikeouts, 42 walks, 12 home runs. So the 3 home runs on the first day of the season, his first outing of the season, probably an anomaly. We're going to see a much better Ross Stripling at home, most likely against the Royals. Right, three straight series against American League teams. I'm never going to get used to this, man.
All right, so thanks for tuning in to everybody who watched on the YouTube stream. We will be back at some point. I'm going to do a death lineup with Ben Cruz, one of my really good friends. Brian is in Spain, so he's not going to be back until the weekend. So he will be back next week. But I still have to figure out the time with Ben, because Ben just got back from a SoCal trip, because Ben works for The Ringer. And he was producing a lot of content relating to WrestleMania, which you actually watched a little bit of yesterday.
I did, man. I had a good time. That was fun. I had to cut it off at a certain point because we ended up watching a movie last night. But I'm going to go back and try to watch the big match from last night, because I heard it was pretty cool. So
so Ben is trying to figure out. We'll figure out Ben's schedule and try to do a death lineup. Andrew Wiggins, the news today is he's supposed to come back sometime this week. I don't know if he's going to play, but he has supposedly been away from the team tending to his father, who is ill, and that's why he was away. So I will do a BSPN news or 2 as well. So if you want to catch that, make sure you subscribe to the podcast version of this show on whatever podcast feed. I think I actually put us on Amazon Music as well. I figured out they sent me an email and they're like, "Hey, you're not on Amazon Music. Click this button and we'll put you there." And I was like, "Okay." I think we're there as well. So iTunes, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Apple Music, and everywhere else that you can find us. All right. So for Brad, I am Double G. We will see you when we see you. Peace out.
Peace.